Hello, friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you may be asking yourself, what's up with this video? Just to let you know, I left my phone at school. And so I'm recording off of my laptop and the camera is not quite as good. So the image, I don't know what the image is going to look like in the end, but I'm sure it's not going to be as good a quality as it usually is, not saying that the quality is usually excellent, but this is one step below that. I think. We'll see how it goes. Also, I'm not sure what the sound is going to be like, so please bear with me. It's only for this one video. And I wanted to be sure to do this to keep on track, right? I didn't want to wait a day and try and cover 2 days at once or do something weird like that. So here we go. Just in case you are new here and you don't know the difference between yesterday's video and today, let me tell you what's going on. I'm doing a deep dive into a brilliant deck called the Egyptian Tarot by C.C. Zane and the Brotherhood of Light. And so what do? Every night before I go to bed, I shuffle my mass market version, the color version of the Egyptian Tarot, and I draw a daily draw card. Yeah, the question I ask, or in other words, that I shuffle into the deck as I am preparing, is what would I benefit from giving my attention to in the following day? And so I pull that card. And then I pull the matching card from my very out-of-print charcoal gray and white version of the same deck. I don't want to shuffle that version because it's old and I'm very careful of it. So I pull that matching card and I look at the differences. Notice the similarities. They're generally very similar, except one is in charcoal gray and white and one is in full color. And then I go to a second deck to get a little bit of help. Now, because this is a deck I'm trying to learn, I want to get a little bit of help from a deck that I'm a little bit more familiar with. So I use the Tarot of the Holy Light by Christine Payne-Towler, the brilliant Christine Payne-Towler. And so I do a 3-card spread to help me unpack my daily draw card. The first card of the spread is the significance of the daily draw card for me the next day. The second card is the challenge, either positive or negative, and the third card is the advice. Yeah, significance, challenge, advice. And then I go to sleep, and then I wake up, and I live my day, and at the end of the day, I go back and I analyze the cards that I had drawn, and plan the video, reflect on the day, and see how the cards either revealed themselves to me during the day, or they perhaps are still a little bit obscured, that I still perhaps need to do a little more reflection and searching of what the cards were trying to tell me. And then I shoot this video, which is what we're doing now. So this is what we're going to do. First, we're going to look at the daily draw card in both versions, the color and the charcoal gray and white. Here they are. The cards for today, well, the card for today in 2 different versions is the 5 of Wands. And if you've been following me, you'll know that yesterday was the Ace of Wands. So we skipped from the Ace to the 5. The day before was the Magus. And when we looked at the Magus, I pointed out that that wand in the Magus looked really important. And then the next day I got the Ace of Wands. And then today we've got the 5 of Wands. A very interesting progression, right? And let me show you the cards right here. So what do we see? We see basically the same thing, right? The placement of the pentagram formed by the 5 wands is a little bit different. Now, one's a little higher than the other, but basically the same. They're the same. The wands in this card are a little bit smaller than in this card, yes. The number of stars is very different, right? You see the number of stars here is much greater than the number of stars in this card. So, but they're still pointing to the same constellation. And at the top, you can see that the associations are the same. And at the bottom, you can see that the planets are the same. And what are those? Well, because I'm using my laptop, let me take this away so I can read what it is that we're looking at. Yeah. So we're looking at the Sagittarius decade of Leo, and the planet was Jupiter. And so the Five of Wands points to the Sagittarius decanate of Leo and its subruler, Jupiter, from which the mutable aspect of fixed fire's vital attributes enter our world. Now, Jupiter and Mercury are both housed solely in mutable signs. Sagittarius is a mutable sign. And so we've got the Jupiter beaming through its mutable room in the house of Leo. And that fixed fire and that as it beams through, it picks up a little bit of the fixed fire's vital attributes as it beams itself into our natal charts, into our lives, into the world, into the question that we're asking of the tarot. And because this is the Five of Wands, it's the second decanate of Leo, we have a complement to accompany it. And the complement is the Sun in Capricorn, which doesn't seem like it would necessarily be all that happy of a place, but actually it turns out to be okay. But we also had the constellation, right? The constellation was Centaurus. Let me show you that constellation right now. Centaurus is quite a cluster of stars, isn't it? And does that name ring a bell for you? Well, it should, because we've gotten this card a few times already. Yeah, Centaurus, not Centaurus. The Five of Wands has shown up to me for me twice in this deep dive already. It showed up for me on January 4th and on the 13th. So this is the third visitation of the Five of Wands for me. And Centaurus, just in case you don't remember, that's a centaur. It sounds like centaur, right? Well, that's pretty astute because Centaurus is the father of the centaurs. Yeah, his father, Centaurus' father, Ixion, was the king of Lapith and was banished. But Zeus took pity on him and brought him up to Olympus and let him party with the gods. But unfortunately, Ixion seemed to get a little bit of a crush or a little bit of the hots for Zeus's wife Hera. And Zeus noticed that. So he wanted to test Ixion. What did he do? He formed a cloud into the shape of Hera. Yeah? And this cloud, taking on the form of a goddess, became a supernatural being itself. But in the form of Hera, this cloud, called Nephele, which means cloud, Nephele, was placed next to the sleeping Ixion, and Ixion saw the cloud, shaped like Hera, thought it was Hera, and ravished her. And guess what? Zeus found out. And Zeus, what do you think? Was happy? Not in the least. So he smites Ixion. He sends Ixion up into the heavens. But the benefit here is that Nephele gets to be a goddess in a way. Because she was pregnant with the child of Ixion. And Nephele gives birth to the deformed Centaurus, which is the constellation we're talking about here. And Centaurus, being deformed, is not really very well accepted by other humans. So he runs away to live in the mountains of Pelion. And while there, he gets lonely and he starts mating with the mares on the mountain, which apparently one would imagine the mares weren't all that appreciative of, but they gave birth to the centaurs. So we've got this long story of the birth of Centaurus from very sketchy circumstances, but being born of a human and a cloud-formed goddess, and then himself fathering a whole line of centaurs. Now, if you remember, centaurs are half human, half horse. And Pelion, by the way, is a very famous as the home of, what is the name of that centaur? Chiron. Chiron, the just. Chiron the wise. Chiron, the one who raises and teaches Theseus. Right? Theseus? Let me check. No, not Theseus, Jason. Jason of Jason and the Argonauts. So we've got a lot of cool stuff happening associated with this one Constellation. Now we got the sketchy turns out to be a whole new species of creature, which furthers the story of mythology with Jason and more heroic deeds. So what is the Five of Wands trying to tell us? Well, it is a fortunate card. Yeah, Jupiter beaming through is a fortunate thing. And even the sun in where is the sun? It's the sun in Capricorn. Yeah, this Capricorn, the worker, is warmed by the sun, we can think. So we get good fortune in business, reformation, social activity benefits our jobs, gain through speculation, a lot of positive stuff, success and insight into business, um, goodwill of customers and clients. That's nice. Not something related to me particularly, but yes. There could be impulsive actions at work which are not necessarily negative. There are some impulses that we follow have very beneficial results. So that could be one of those. If the card's upright, if the card's reversed, could mean different things. Faith in superiors. Okay. Theatrical success. Love to do that. Love to have this card when I was back in my theater days, but I don't think that really means much for me right now. Especially now because I'm not in the middle of teaching actively. We're in the middle of preparing for the next semester. And I finished the camp that I taught at. So you notice this thing is broken and I'm fussing with it. So, but this is a beneficial card. But still made me think, well, okay, knowing my week, my day, the next few weeks, I don't really see how this directly would apply to me now. So that 3-card spread that I did, I would imagine would prove to be very beneficial and helping me unpack this card. So I did the 3-card spread. Let me show you that group of 3 cards right now. You saw that the 3 cards from left to right were the ace, I'm sorry, not the ace, the 8 of discs, then the 10 of wands reversed, and then the 5 of wands reversed. Now, we'll get to that in just a bit, but know that the 5 of wands in the Tarot of the Holy Light and the 5 of wands in the Egyptian Tarot are very different. They have different associations. Yeah? The Egyptian Tarot lays out the decanates in a very particular order. Yeah, 1, 2, 3 goes from the. What do I want to say? It goes from the one. The ace would be the first decadent of the sign. The 2 would be the second decadent. The 3 would be the third decadent of the sign, and then the 4 would be the first decadent of the second sign. The 5 is the second decadent of the second sign. The 6 is the third decadent of the second sign. And then continue through the 7, 8, 9 in that order. Tarot of the Holy Light orders them differently. Now, the 1, 2, 3 of the Tarot of the Holy Light matches up perfectly with the Egyptian Tarot. When we move into the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, then the order gets shifted around. So the 5 in this deck, in the Tarot of the Holy Light, is going to have a different association. It's going to be associated with a different decadent. Yeah, the 5 of wands in the Egyptian Tarot was associated with the second decadent. The 5 of wands in the Tarot of the Holy Light is associated with the third decadent. So instead of a complement and a detriment, we're going to have either an exaltation or, here in reverse, a fall. Okay? I hope that was meaningful to you. But that was a preview of coming attractions. But let's start with the first card, the 8 of discs. Upright. Beautiful card. We've got 4 suns at the top. We've got 4 moons at the bottom. We've got plants growing up. The sides. Yeah, it's a lovely card with stars in the background. Lovely, lovely card. And you see at the bottom, we have Taurus and... No, I'm sorry. We have Virgo and Venus together. Why? Well, because the Eight of Discs points to the Taurus decadent of Virgo and its subruler Venus, from which the fixed aspect of mutable Earth's vital attributes enter our world. Now, so Venus here is associated with Taurus. So we're in the Tauran house of Virgo. So Venus is beaming through the Tauran house of Virgo. So the the fixed aspect of Earth is taking on the mutable aspect of Virgo as it enters the world and our lives and our natal charts and the question we're asking of the tarot. And the question specific for this card was, what is the significance of this card for me? This card. You can't see that, can you? What is the significance of this card for me for the next day? Oh, and because it's upright, the Eight of Discs, it's the third decadent. This is another third decadent. We have an exaltation of Mercury in Virgo, which is very, very helpful because Mercury's house is Virgo. And we got Virgo doubled again here. So we got a lot of Virgo in this one card. And which makes sense because Virgo is the one of routines, planning things out and doing the tasks to attain to perfection and perfectionism, which is all very reminiscent with the Eight of Discs in many different systems of tarot. For example, the Rider-Waite-Smith. What do we see? In Pamela Colman Smith's art, we see a workman sitting at their bench, perfecting their craft, working on their craft, doing the tasks, getting it right, getting it perfect. That echoes this very well, I think, in that exaltation of Mercury in Venus. Mercury here gets to do the stuff right. So, the Eight of Discs, Taurus of Venus, gives us that same thing, mastery of work, the spirit of experimentation as well. Now, because doing the same thing mindlessly and without thought does not lead to perfection. A little spirit of experimentation to try to perfect and hone your craft is necessary to accomplish mastery. So we get that here as well. The spirit of experimentation for the purpose of not just breaking the mold, but perfecting the mold. And having a willingness to fail. Yeah, we're not going to excel if we're not willing to fail and make mistakes and learn. But still, a very high bar is being set because we're in Virgo. And the beauty of Venus in Virgo is setting a very high bar of perfection, I believe. So that's the beginning of what this card is trying to tell me right now. In that success with business, what else did we have? Gain through speculation, good fortune in business, but through honing what it is that I'm doing. And in relationship to that exaltation of Mercury in Venus, I'd like to read a short section directly from the guidebook for the Tarot of the Holy Light, because I think it's very well put. The whole book is very well put, but I don't know how I could say this better. So, not that I could say any of the rest of the book better, but a paraphrase of this in my own words is not going to add anything to the conversation, so let me read it directly. At its exaltation, when Mercury is at his peak in Virgo, the Eight of Discs manages to achieve an epiphany, the accomplishment of which sets a high bar for artists and visionaries of future generations. The whole concept of exaltation implies making contact with something so essential and archetypal that it is able to lift us out of our normal state of existence and transform us to a higher mode of being. Artists, musicians, trance dancers, and shamans have always had that power to sweep away the ordinary and assert a realm of archetypal forces, which both explain and resolve our mundane challenges. The power to usher in his audience through inner awakenings has always been a gift of Mercury. So Mercury here, inner awakenings. That experimentation and the uh, contact with something essential and archetypal, which helps us to develop and helps us to connect the artistry that is within us, the master craftsperson within us, is part of this exaltation. And it's a very grand idea, and perhaps a little too grand for what my day was or has been. But still, we get the flavor of that, right? The reaching for perfection, of contacting the archetype to inform what we're doing, having epiphanies, and reaching up for a high bar. And this is intriguing, particularly when we look at the next card, which was the advice. No, not the advice, which was the challenge of the three cards. Yeah, the first card is significance, the second card is challenge, and the challenge card was the Ten of Wands reversed. Let me show you that card right now. Here it is. Let me show it to you upright. Upright, what do we see? We see a serpent. We see two serpents, one red and one blue. The red serpent is in the front and the blue serpent is in the back. And we see the 10 wands on the side, and we see the forest above which there is a raging fire and the sun. A beautiful card, beautifully depicted. Now, according to the creator of this deck, the snake, the serpent in front, which is crucified on this cross, this Tau cross, is still alive and gasping. The blue snake in the background is long since dead and is fossilized. So, what is that telling us? Well, first, we see the significance below, which is that the Ten of Wands points to Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. All of the tens in this deck, and actually, well, no, all of the tens in this deck point to all three signs of the element of the suit. So this is the fire suit. So we have the three fire signs, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius, which are the domiciles of Mars, the Sun, and Jupiter, from which cardinal, fixed, and immutable fire's vital attributes enter our world. We've got all of this fire beaming in through the Ten of Wands, only now it's reversed. So it could be it could be a repression of some sorts, a blockage. Upright, we have ideas about burdens about to end, being in the home stretch. Perhaps this in reverse, we're not there. That's one way to read it. But the guidebook points to another possibility, which I think relates more to this card. And that possibility is that because the blue serpent is a fossil, long since dead, let me give that to you a little bit closer, long since dead, but still preserving the shape and attitude of his final sacrifice. That little bit was quoted from the guidebook. And that reminds me of things like the Pompeii. Have you ever seen pictures of, or seen in person, the people who were fossilized, basically, in Pompeii when Vesuvius erupted, basically 2,000 years ago? Have you seen those figures? They look like they're perhaps struggling to get away, or they're clutching a baby. They were frozen in time. Just like this serpent is frozen in time. And from this we get the idea of the past actions, our ancestors, leaving traces for us to discover. And this is the motivating power of spiritual inspiration. The seeds of transcendental ideas can lie dormant in the collective psyche for generations and arise full-blown, far from their exemplar. And that exemplar would be this fossilized snake in the back. So that snake, that serpent, which is long since dead, has left ideas, aspirations, desires in the collective psyche of it's us, our species, and that can arise fully formed, not as um, incremental development or an incremental expansion or growth of an idea, like from the ace of wands up through the 10, but like bam, a fully blown idea, a fully blown desire, a fully blown concept, a fully blown invention, perhaps, a vision, perhaps. Because what is dormant is still powerful, compelling, and transformative, but it's still dormant. So, upon contact with a soul that is ready, willing, and able, this divine idea will come to life again in a heartbeat, because it's already fully formed. It's already there, if that makes sense. So, this pointing to the archetypes which can feed our inspiration and our accomplishments is echoed in this card, I believe. And so, what is the advice that I'm getting from all of this? The advice I got from this was a little bit on the negative side. Yeah, the 10 of Wands reversed is actually not all that negative. The 5 of Wands reversed, which was, again, the 5 of Wands, but different, because this is a different deck. Now, the 5 of Wands in the Egyptian Tarot was the Sagittarius decadent of Leo. Yeah, but here in the Tarot of the Holy Light, we have the Mars decadent of Leo. So in this card, well, let me show it to you upright. It's a very complex image, if you ask me, but a beautiful one, of course. We've got the planets beaming into this crystal, which beam back out into perhaps a zodiacal chart on a flat surface. Now you see that the light beaming into the crystal and then beaming out into that disc below on a podium. Flowers are growing up on the sides. It's a beautiful, lush card, rife with, full of images, full of symbol. We got the sun and the moon at the top of both pillars. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And the 5 of Wands points to the Aries decadent of Leo and its subruler Mars, from which the cardinal aspect of fixed fire's vital attributes enter our world. The cardinal aspect of fixed fire's vital attributes enter our world. And since this is the third decadent, here we have a reverse of a fall. Now, wait a second. What am I saying? Fall. I'm sorry. Yes, this is the third decadent here. The 5 of Wands in the other deck was the second decadent. This is the third decadent. I'm getting myself confused because the 8 of Discs was a third decadent card, right? The 8 of Discs was a third decadent card, and this is a third decadent card. And because this one is reversed, instead of an exaltation, we get a fall. So the exaltation of the sun is in Aries. The fall is in Libra. So we also have that. The sun in Libra. A little too balanced for the sun's appetites, perhaps. A little too cold, a little too airy for the sun's happiness. So what do we get here in reverse? Well, competition at all expenses of at the expense of others is one of the possible meanings of this card. Not exactly great advice. Perhaps something to avoid. Avoid competition with others, because if you do enter into a competitive situation, into a competitive environment, it will become damaging. It could relate to struggles because of ambition. So we don't want to have ambition when we're looking to attain that high bar in the Eight of Discs, we want to be careful that we're not trying to do it because we're ambitious, but rather because we are inspired from the divine perfection within and from the divine perfection of the eternal beings that we are having these human experiences. And so this card does give the advice that we may want to disconnect from the group, especially from the group mind of winners and losers and who's on top and who's losing and who's falling, and that ranking of life that we do as groups very often. So this is perhaps telling us to disconnect from that, to remove ourselves from that, and ask who benefits from that kind of struggle, to win at others' expenses. Who's really the benefiter? The winner? Does that winner really benefit? Is it all a show or a game for somebody else's enjoyment? Sometimes we engage in these struggles, and even though one is the winner and one is the loser, neither are really winners because the game was for the enjoyment of somebody else. Does that make sense? So, this card is reminding us as advice that there's no need for us to lower ourselves into a zero-sum game mind frame. Focus only on being the best self possible, which I think is good advice for me. Not because I was surrounded by people who were going to be competitive, but rather, let me tell you what happened, what my day was like. My day was a very quiet day mostly. I rode my bike for the first time today. And in riding my bicycle in this place that I live, I am often very angry. What do I mean? I mean that drivers here where I live do not have are play loose and fast with traffic law. I will see on one ride from my home to work, I will see at least 3 or more drivers doing something that is illegal daily. And that's on a good day. Some days I'll see people do some things that are just insane. Like, well, okay, so I don't want to go there. That's not the day that I want to be having. I don't want to be doing the winners and losers, zero-sum games. So I noticed when I got on my bicycle in the morning that I was very aware and sensitive to people not doing what they're supposed to be doing in traffic, and also as pedestrians walking in the bicycle lane, for example. So I noticed that, and I noticed my desire to correct everybody. And I did ask people to please get out of my way. Yes, but rather than I checked. I think I checked myself before I got into that full-fledged. Why is everybody doing the wrong thing? Cycle of thoughts, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I got to work, and it ended up being an okay ride. And I had a video call with my mom, which was good. Lasted a long time. We talked about actually her assistant caregiver, her her caregiver, and the manager of her caregiver. That's what I should call her. Yeah, because she's not her direct caregiver, but she's the one who manages her finances and manages the people who take care of her on a daily basis. So that person was there, and we were talking about my mom, how her health status, which has been improving steadily over the last month or two, very wonderfully. The additional meds that she is taking for her memory, and then the other meds that have been able to be reduced because she's lost weight, and all the good stuff that had been going on. So I talked to them about that and about what my mother asked me frequently, what my plans are, what I'm doing, and I answered frequently something that is normal with a conversation with a person with developing dementia. That's how things go. And so I had that talk with my mom and her care manager. And then I started, well, that was a long talk. So then I started working on some other things in my office. And then I started working after lunch. I started working on my list of my tarot library, which I've separated into categories generally. And so now I'm trying to enter those. I did that physically because that's the way I work. I need to do it physically, see them together. And then now I need to record them, and that takes quite a while. And so I did a little bit more work on that today, got through a good chunk of that. And I also did a little bit of studying of sourdough starter and work with sourdough, which I'm trying to refresh my knowledge and my skills. I ordered a new basket for doing the final rise before baking a loaf. Want to make a boule? I have the baskets for the batard, short batards, but I wanted to have one at least that I could do a fairly normal sized boule loaf, a round loaf. So I ordered one of those, and then I filled up the tires in my bicycle to come home, and I left my phone at home at the work as I came home, and so that's why I'm videotaping like this. And I was frankly very pissed off at myself when I realized when I got home that I had no phone, because it's my camera for doing this. It's also my alarm for getting up in the morning. It's a lot of things for my life, as probably it is for you as well. And so, there it is. So what does that mean with these cards, huh? What's up with that? Um, yeah, I think I'm reaching for a kind of excellence and for growth in my practice and use of tarot. And part of that is this organization, this Virgo-like stuff that I'm doing. We mentioned Virgo is pretty prominent in that Eight of Discs card. Doing the Virgo stuff of getting the list together, getting it organized, seeing where I might want to move a deck into another area. And that list is going to become something else once it's done. It's going to become something that I'm going to be able to use for offering readings, I think. So, yeah, it's and I've got this vision of how I want my website to look, and having this list of decks of my library to offer as um, to offer as readings is going to be beneficial for me in the future, and that's what I'm planning, and that's what I'm doing. And so, what do I feel like I'm missing? That Eight of Discs, the Ten of Wands. Yeah, I think I'm being inspired perhaps by my idea of what the kind of reader I want to be in the future. Yeah, and I think that idea has been already fully formed. But now it's a matter of how does it come into fruition? How do I move to that? So that's part of that. I think Eight of Discs and Ten of Wands interacting together. And then the advice for me is don't freak out too much about things that go wrong, because we don't want to get into that competition of zero sum. Everything can work out, and everything works out for the best. And so even this video is working out for the best in a sense, right? Because I got it done. I had all the tools I really needed. They're not the tools that I really wanted to have. And maybe there are other tools that I could have to reach a higher bar of excellence in doing these videos for you. But it doesn't have to be a lose. I'm now a loser because because of the situation that we find me in today. That makes sense, right? I hope so. I hope so. So here we are. Here we are. If that does make sense, let me know in the comments below. And hit the thumbs up button so that YouTube knows that you and other people might also enjoy this video, and it will draw more eyes to the channel. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and hit the alarm bell so you get notifications of when I upload videos. I do about one a day until the new moon, and then I'm going to go back to my old schedule of about 3 a week. Also, if you want the decks that I'm using in this series, in this deep dive, they are available. The Tarot of the Holy Light by the amazing Christine Payne-Towler is available. I have a link in the description box below. The color version of the Egyptian Tarot is also readily available. There's a link to Amazon below. I'm not getting any money if you use that link. It's just there for your convenience. Oh, also, I got a package in the mail today from a tarot collector series, a tarot series called Total Tarot. And the offering that they sent me for this month was, interestingly, the Egyptian Tarot by Lo Scarabeo. And looking at it, it is different, but it's very, very similar to this deck, the Egyptian Tarot by Stuart Kaplan, the Tarot by Comte de Saint-Germain in his book. Who knew I would collect Egyptian Tarots? But now I've got one, two, 3, 4. That would be my 5th deck of Egyptian Tarots. Who knew? So there's that. But yes, there are other Egyptian Tarots available on the market. There's Lo Scarabeo, which is different. Stuart Kaplan's is really, really, really hard to find and out of print. There's a deck on Make Playing Cards, and I think on Game Crafter that is a redrawing of the images of the Egyptian Tarot, but there's no extra information like you'll find on this card with the astrological associations, for example. But so there are a lot of things that are available if you're interested in diving into the Egyptian Tarot. I really do highly recommend the one by CC Zane, though, as your starter. It's a great opening, I think. And so, friends, there's that. Oh, if you want a reading from me, my email address is in the description box below. Shoot me an email. We'll get you a reading. So, friends, thank you for being patient with me in this video from today. And as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.